Today I'm gonna tie-dye. I have a big family, so I figured tie-dyeing socks would be a really cool gift that I could get everybody. I've never done the whole tie-dye process by myself from start to finish, so this is kind of an experiment, but I'm really excited to get the process dialed so that next time I do it, it'll be a lot easier and it'll be a little bit more fun and less stressful.
You're going to need a large bucket or bowl, gloves, fiber reactive dye, Synthrapol, squeeze bottles, measuring cups and spoons, soda ash, rubber bands, plastic bags, and white items to tie-dye that are at least 80% cotton. I used the Jacquard Procion MX dye in the colors forest green, fire engine red, jet black, magenta, antique gold, navy, and deep purple.
I'm gonna put this scarf on when I pour it. It's a fine powder and you just don't wanna inhale that.
You're going to add 1 cup of soda ash per gallon of warm water. I started out with a small amount of water in the bowl and then slowly stirred in the soda ash. Formed some clumps, so once those were fully dissolved, I added the remaining water. The purpose of using soda ash is to create a stronger bond between the fabric and the dye. This bowl was way too small for the amount of fabric I was dyeing, but I just stuffed it all in there anyways because I just wanted to get it all done at once.
Okay, so this is just gonna have to do for now. I think it'll work. So you just let this soak for 20 minutes, and then while that's soaking, I'm going to make the dyes.
To make the dye, you're going to mix 2 teaspoons of the powder for each cup of water. You don't want to make more dye than you need because after a week or so, the dye will no longer react to the fabric. This step took longer than expected because since there was dye residue left on the funnel, I had to rinse and then dry it after each color. Next, add 1 cup of warm water to the powders and then carefully shake the bottles. This should probably be done over the sink. After the fabric has soaked for at least 20 minutes, you can wring everything out. The more damp the fabric is, the easier it will be for the dye to saturate through. It'll also determine if the colors end up more vibrant or muted. These are the techniques I use to fold and dye the socks. At the end, I'll have a little illustration showing how I applied the dye in order to get that specific outcome. For the accordion fold, make 1-inch folds back and forth, like an accordion, trying to make sure the folds are as uniform as possible. For this particular pair of socks, I put 2 rubber bands on each sock, making 3 equal sections. Do the same thing with the other sock. There's so many different variations you can try when dyeing these. For this one, I put a different color in each section, making sure it saturates to the halfway point, and when doing the other side, I switched up the order of the colors. If you are making the other side the same colors, then you can just soak it all the way through. Start at the end and gather the sock towards you. I tried to make it uneven while still balancing out the surface area and the parts beneath the folds. I just put 1 rubber band in the center to hold it all together, but you can use as many as you like. When dyeing this one, I put a line of magenta in the center, yellow on the outside of that, and then purple on the edges. I did the same exact thing on the other side. For this one, I just sporadically put all the colors on there. I did the same technique using 2 or 3 colors on other socks. This one is pretty self-explanatory. I twisted it and then rolled them. For one of the pairs of ankle socks, I actually twisted both of the socks together. Fortunately, the dye saturated through it all and it turned out okay. For the ridge roll, I made a peak in the center of the sock, folded the sides up, rolled it in a spiral, and then rubber banded it. I put strips of yellow and green and black on these. With all of these socks, especially the rolled ones, you want to make sure they are turned in the same direction or mirrored when dyeing, depending on what look you want to achieve. I used 3 rubber bands to make 6 triangle sections and put all the colors in order like a rainbow. This one is really easy. All you do is put the socks together and tightly wrap rubber bands around them with equal distance in between. For these, you just put a different color or even alternate colors in each section. This was supposed to be a zigzag-like pattern, but they kind of ended up just being me using 1 rubber band along the length of the sock. With these, you can make lines of color like the stripe technique, or you can do splashes of 1 or more color on there. I folded this so that it would make 4 equal squares. I alternated red and black, making sure the dye got in between the folds. Once the socks were dyed, I placed everything in large Ziploc bags. Don't throw these out because you can rinse them and reuse them next time. I messed up and didn't place a couple of the socks far enough apart and spots of color transferred to other socks. So don't do that. Let everything sit for 24 to 48 hours. Rinse with cold water until the water runs clear, and then rinse with warm water until that runs clear. At one point, I got impatient and decided to rinse a bunch at the same time. You can do that with this specific dye without getting worried about color transfer, because at this point, as long as you have let the dye cure for at least 24 hours, it should no longer react to the fabric. After rinsing everything in the sink, I ran it through the washing machine on hot with the Synthropol. The directions say to use 3 tablespoons for 8 pounds of fabric. I didn't do the final cold cycle until the hot water ran completely clear.
It's really late. I had to wash it a few more times than I thought I would, but the hot water ran clear. Now we're just gonna dry it, then it'll be done. So I'm just gonna show you everything. Here's a shirt we did for Ray. It's actually our friend's brand, Identify. I did this all purple. This is Ev's shirt. This is just like the classic spiral. And then here's Steven's shirt. I wish I would have done one of my shirts, but I just didn't even think about that. I got a yard of muslin because I want to make masks. Put all the colors in there, kind of like a rainbow pattern to where all the colors that touch each other would go well with each other. Now I'm gonna do the little ankle socks. It's gonna be hard to figure out who gets what and what I think people would like. I like all of them, so I mean, you really can't go wrong, right? First I was tripping about things not being perfectly symmetrical, but it's okay. I think that makes it even cooler when there's some imperfections. I did these specifically for my sister because she loves Harry Potter, so do I, but she's a mega fan. She's a Gryffindor, I think. What if she's not? That would suck. So I learned something. With these socks, they are thinner here, and they have this woven pattern. If you are gonna use these kinds of socks, you have to make sure that these socks are fully saturated on this part because otherwise it's going to look like this. I ran out of rubber bands, so I just kind of winged it. This has the same problem with the dye not fully absorbing in this area. Ugh. See, okay, there's only 3, yeah. This too. Look how pretty these are. This kind of has like a chevron pattern in the front. And then these are the moldy socks. Just looks like moldy. Ew, mold. Ugh. These have the same little woven piece in the front, and these turned out fine. You just really have to make sure that the dye fully soaked through everything and that you have enough, like these. These kind of have a checkerboard vibe to them. How to do one with Christmas colors. I'm seeing these for the first time too, all done. Love these colors. I got a little bit of yellow on this too, just from some cross-contamination. So adds character. Why? Oh yeah, these. You know, classic rainbow. I hope if you're going to be tie-dyeing soon that you learned something from this video. There's so many other resources on YouTube too. I learned a lot of things from Mr. Tie-Dye. I scoured the internet for all of the answers, and his information definitely was aligned with a lot of the things that I read on the Jacquard website itself. I'm really excited for my family to get their gifts. I feel like it's always fun to have something that's handmade in general, even if it isn't by a family member. So it'll be cool to see just how everybody likes it.